A tall figure steps from shadow in a black cape and evening dress. His hair is slicked back, his accent is foreign and smooth, and he says, "I am Dracula." This is the Count almost everyone can picture without trying. He has not aged in over 90 years, but this is not the man Bram Stoker wrote in 1897. Open Stoker's actual pages, and you find a tall old man, clean-shaven except for a long white moustache, dressed in black without a speck of color anywhere. His face is aquiline, his eyebrows are massive and nearly meet over his nose. His hair is thin at the temples and thick everywhere else. His teeth are sharp and white and sit over his lip. His ears are pale and pointed. He does not look young when the novel begins, and he grows younger only as he feeds. The smooth young aristocrat is not where the character starts. It is where he ends. That image belongs to Bela Lugosi, 1931. Every adaptation since has worked from his performance rather than from Stoker's text. Hollywood built the Count the audience remembers. It is not the Count on the page. There is a second belief riding alongside the first one, and it is repeated just as often. Bram Stoker, the story goes, studied the life of Vlad the Impaler, the 15th-century Wallachian prince, and built his monster from that biography. The impalements, the war record, the legend. This is the claim this archive exists to test against the documents. The documents do not agree with it. Bram Stoker's working notes survive. They are held at the Rosenbach Museum in Philadelphia, and they tell a very different story about where this character came from. The novel was not originally set in Transylvania. Stoker's early drafts are set in Styria, and his villain carries a different name. Count Wampir. The change happened on a specific day, in a specific place. The 8th of August, 1890. Stoker was on holiday at Whitby, on the Yorkshire coast. He walked into the public library there, and pulled a book off the shelf. William Wilkinson's An Account of the Principalities of Wallachia and Moldavia, published in London in 1820. Wilkinson had been the British Levant Company's representative in Bucharest, appointed in October of 1813. He wrote what he saw and what he was told. On page 19 of that book sits a footnote, 4 sentences. Stoker copied it almost word for word into his notes and prefixed it with 2 words, voivode, Dracula. Here is the footnote, in full. Dracula in the Wallachian language means devil. The Wallachians were, at that time, as they are at present, used to give this as a surname to any person who rendered himself conspicuous, either by courage, cruel actions, or cunning. Read it again. There is no name Vlad in it. There is no title, the Impaler. There is no biography, no war record, no Order of the Dragon. Wilkinson's book mentions more than one voivode called Dracula, and does not tell them apart. The only fact that survives the crossing from Wilkinson's page into Stoker's novel is one sentence, that a voivode named Dracula crossed the Danube to attack Turkish troops, and had some success. One river crossing. That is the entire biography Stoker had in hand when he renamed his villain. So who was the man behind the word? The record here is thick, and it is real. Chronicles, letters, pamphlets, all dated, all still archived. He was born around 1430 in Sighisoara, in the Kingdom of Hungary. Sources disagree on the exact year. 1428, 29, 30, and 31 all appear. Say around 1430 and leave it there. In 1431, his father, Vlad II, was inducted into the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order formed to defend Eastern Europe against Ottoman expansion. That order is where the name Dracul enters the family. Dracula later means son of Dracul. In 1436, his father became ruler of Wallachia. In 1442, Vlad and his younger brother Radu were sent to the Ottoman court as hostages, held there to guarantee their father's loyalty. In 1447, his father and his eldest brother, Mircea, were murdered after a Hungarian noble, John Hunyadi, invaded Wallachia. Vlad ruled Wallachia 3 separate times, briefly in 1448, for 6 years, from 1456 to 1462, and again in 1476. The most famous episode from any of the 3 reigns happened on the night of the 16th to 17th of June, 1462. Vlad led a raid into the Ottoman Sultan's own camp, attempting to kill him where he slept. He failed to reach the Sultan, but the raid became legend on both sides of the border. Ottoman sources describe 20,000 impaled bodies outside the city of Târgoviște that same year. Historians dispute that figure, attribute it to the Ottoman chroniclers who recorded it, and go no further than that. He died fighting in late December of 1476, or early January of 1477, against an Ottoman-backed rival named Basarab. His retinue was massacred alongside him. A letter from Stephen III of Moldavia, dated the 10th of January, 1477, reports the destruction in writing within days of the event. His grave has never been confirmed. The traditional site at Snagov has been searched and has not settled the question. How he died is not settled either. The Austrian chronicler Jacob Unrest says a disguised Turkish assassin killed him in his camp. A Russian account, credited to the diplomat Fyodor Kurizin, who actually interviewed Vlad's family after his death, says his own troops mistook him for a Turk in the confusion of battle, and killed him themselves. Vlad was known to disguise himself as an Ottoman soldier, as a battlefield trick. Both stories fit a man who did that. None of this, the hostage years, the night raid, the 3 reigns, the disputed death, appears anywhere in Stoker's notes. He did not have it. He could not have built a character from a war record he never read. So where did the fearsome reputation come from, the one Wilkinson's Footnote was already trading on in 1820? It was built over 4 centuries by people with reasons to build it. The first wave came from German-speaking Saxon trading towns inside Transylvania. Hermannstadt, Kronstadt, Klausenburg, whose privileges Vlad had stripped. 12 years after his death, in 1488, a printer in Nuremberg produced a pamphlet describing his cruelties, with a woodcut portrait attached. 14 copies of these pamphlets survive today, some hand-colored. They kept circulating across Central Europe into the 1530s. No signed order proving the Saxon towns commissioned them has ever surfaced. That they were behind it is historians' inference from the trade dispute, not a document in hand. Say it as inference, because it is one. The Ottomans remembered him, too, differently. Kazaklı Voivoda, the Impaler prince, feared but recorded with a kind of military respect. Romanian chronicles remember a third man, a severe ruler who punished corruption inside his own court and held a borderline against the empire next door. A Hungarian court chronicler even recorded that King Matthias of Hungary had acted against general opinion in imprisoning Vlad at all, and that while he was held captive, he was hailed across parts of Europe as a Christian hero holding back the Ottomans. 3 reputations, enemies who needed him monstrous, a rival empire that respected him as a soldier, countrymen who needed him heroic. By the time William Wilkinson sat down to write his Footnote in 1820, none of those 3 stories had won. What was left was a name that sounded fearsome, and a rumor that it meant devil. That is the entire inheritance Stoker picked up off a library shelf in Whitby, 70 years later. He took the sound of the word. He never looked inside it. If the name did not come from Vlad's biography, then the question the popular version never asks becomes the interesting one. Where did the character come from? There is an argument made by the biographer Barbara Belford, and it should be stated plainly as an argument, not as settled fact. Stoker spent 27 years as business manager to the actor Henry Irving. Commanding, theatrical, a man who consumed the people around him, on stage and off it. Belford's case is that Irving, not a 15th-century warlord, is the closer model for the Count, a man Stoker watched at close range for most of his adult life, rather than a paragraph he read once in a library. This is scholarly inference. It is not documented the way the Whitby date is documented, but it survives contact with the text in a way the Vlad theory does not. And the ending film has trained you to expect is not the ending Stoker wrote either. There is no wooden stake driven into the Count's heart at Castle Dracula in the finished novel. Jonathan Harker's kukri knife shears through the throat. Quincy Morris drives a Bowie knife into the heart at the same moment. The body crumbles to dust in front of them. Cinema simplified it to a stake, the way cinema simplified an old man into a young one. So set the 2 Counts side by side, one more time. The Count on the screen. Young, seductive, dressed for an evening out, allegedly built from a warlord's biography. The Count on the page, an old man with a white moustache and pointed ears who grows younger by feeding, built from 4 sentences in a footnote, and, very possibly, from the actor Stoker worked for every day of his career. Vlad III was real. He fought 3 reigns, led a raid into a sultan's camp, and died in a battle whose details are still argued over by named chroniclers who disagreed with each other in their own century. His name survived because his enemies and his countrymen both needed it too. Bram Stoker took that surviving name off a library shelf in Yorkshire. On a specific day you can still find written down, and built something else entirely on top of it. The novel kept the name. It erased the prince.